All right, joining us now is Gerald Celente of trendsjournal.com. And Gerald has always been ahead of the curve in terms of trends. He saw these wars coming a long time ago, and unfortunately, as he points out, he reports on what he sees happening as trends, not what he would like to have happen. Gerald has worked tirelessly for the purpose of peace, and just as tirelessly as Lindsey Graham worked for war. Peace doesn't pay, though, like war does for these guys. And so we had a funeral for Lindsey Graham yesterday, and I thought it was kind of interesting to see all the people who were eulogizing him, Gerald. It was truly disgusting to see all these Christians lining up, and it was truly disgusting to see what Sean Hannity was saying. Sean Hannity was even more disgusting than he usually is. But thank you for joining us. Again, trendsjournal.com, and you can save 10% off with the code NIGHT. And when you do that, it is, what is it? It's like a week's worth. It's less than 1 day of the Wall Street Journal, is that correct? Or New York Times, I should say.
It's half the day of a wall. It's $2.50 a week.
Wow.
And you see the magazine, it's over 200 pages, around 200. And you read what you want, from high-tech science to AI to geopolitics, economics, on and on.
And it's a great format. I love it because it's like a magazine online. I mean, it's even got pages that you flip through.
Well, you can listen to it. It's in different languages, and you can print it out. And I got to tell you, I'm heartbroken. I've never worked harder in my life. And to see the decline of humanity in front of our eyes. You talk about Lindsey Graham and all these so-called Christians. What Christ do you believe in?
No. They made up their own
mean
Christ.
The Prince of Peace?
Yeah.
The Prince of Peace, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
And you're celebrating an arrogant slimeball warmonger?
That's right.
They're a bunch of hypocrites.
Yep.
What Christ are you talking about?
Even their political issues, they say that you got the Family Research Center, Tony Perkins is there eulogizing Lindsey Graham. And it's like, family? Are you talking about family? What about the families that he blew up? What about the families that are being run out of their homes at gunpoint while they bulldoze their homes and steal them at that point? You don't care about any of that stuff. You got Susan B. Anthony, the pro-life organization. How pro-life is the Gaza genocide? How pro-life are these wars, one after the other? Even Donald Trump in his eulogy said he never saw a war he didn't like. Now, Sean Hannity.
A fat boy, 5-time draft dodger.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a war I didn't like, but I won't go fighting them. Anybody that supports war, put on your costume, go over there and fight, or shut your mouth. And talking about the lack of caring when they love the warmongers. This is from the Times of Israel yesterday. Defense Minister Israel Katz, cats in the bag, says Israel has, you ready? Has completely destroyed 24 historic villages in southern Lebanon. Quote, 24 Lebanese villages that were hundreds of years old with Shiite residents who acted as enemies of Israel.
Yeah.
And threatened our borders and our residents. We destroyed all the buildings. Not one house at a time. The entirety of all the villages. Their demolition has been completed. You ready? We're talking about 15,000 to 20,000 homes.
That's just horrible.
All 24 of these villages have been destroyed.
And they brag about it. It. Yeah. And it's genocide. That is absolutely genocide.
And not only they brag about it, they steal our money to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
So everybody, shut your mouth. Do what you're told. Go to work. We're stealing your money, and we're going to give it to Israel to keep slaughtering people, stealing land, and genocide. So shut up.
That's right.
Be a good little boy and girl, and don't raise your voice. You're still in kindergarten. You obey your president and the slimeball politicians that you vote for.
Put your mask on your face because Fauci says so.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can only walk in one direction through the grocery store and all the rest of this nonsense.
This was my mask.
There you go.
Yeah. No, little Lindsey Graham, may he rot in hell.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you're talking about the way they go through and they destroy entire villages. That was the very essence of the term genocide. That's what the Turks did to the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. They're still doing it and recently did it. But it was a Jewish guy who coined the term genocide, and he did it talking about what the Turks are doing to the Armenians. And that is exactly what Israel is doing and boasting about doing, even in Lebanon, not just in Gaza, but in Lebanon. Yeah. And, one of the things is any student of the Bible knows that olive trees were a big part of life there. And, of course, the olive trees have been there for millennia. At the time of Christ, he went to the Mount of Olives. Does that ring a bell with anybody? But these guys, 60%, two-thirds, I should say, of the Israelis have an allergy to the pollen of the olive tree. And so they want to get rid of these things because they represent the income of these families who have been farming this for millennia. And so they've got to rip the olive trees out so they don't have any way to support themselves, but they also don't like the pollen. But that is a key indicator that they're not from that area. Only 1% of the globe is allergic to olive tree pollen, but it's 2/3 of these people who are cosplaying as Israelis, and it's just ridiculous when you look at what they're doing, and it's so incredibly evil. When Sean Hannity was talking about Lindsey Graham, I couldn't believe it when I saw this. He said his greatest gift in life, from my perspective, was that Lindsey had moral clarity. He understood right from wrong and good from evil. That didn't keep him from doing evil. It didn't make him do right. And I would say that since I believe in God, I believe in a judgment. I think that Lindsey Graham finally has some moral clarity at this point. I don't know.
Again, it's a joke.
Yeah,
and again,
it is.
In a year, nobody will ever remember Lindsey Graham again, who he was, what he was, all gone, all forgotten. When you're gone, you're dead. You're dead, you're over. It's...
well, his wars will live on, right? The evil that men do lives beyond them.
Did I tell you this story about Lindsey Graham when I was on Fox? I used to be on Fox a lot.
Yeah, I think you did. That they dumped you so they could have him come on.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Because I came out against we're talking about Obama invading Libya.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they had a top CIA guy on. And I started going after the guy. I said, Libya is the richest country in Africa. People have more rights and benefits than most of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're very rich in oil. I said, you think they're going after that? I said, no, we have no right doing this. No, we have to take a break. We have Senator Lindsey Graham coming on. And that's when they used to send a satellite truck up here to Kingston.
Yeah.
And they took me off the air for that little slob.
Well, probably because of what you were saying, they probably had Lindsey Graham on speed dial. We need your help right away. We got to push back. Somebody's talking about peace. We can't have that. Well, I'm your guy. He's going to come on right away, no matter what he's doing. He'll drop it to push war.
And that was the end. That was about when they stopped having me on after that.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, the other thing that Sean Hannity said, which I thought was pretty amazing, let me play this for you. I think you can hear this clip. This is Sean Hannity imagining that Lindsey Graham is enjoying a heavenly version of Mar-a-Lago.
Where ye may be also. Lindsey, Mr. President, I would argue in my mind probably has a heavenly version of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, you think?
It may even be
what a jerk.
He may have a little more gold in the Oval Office in his mansion in heaven. And I wouldn't be surprised if he added one big, beautiful ballroom and an arch somewhere on the property. Because
how about a golden statue of himself?
Duplicate his dearest friend in life, you, Mr. President.
Wow. Isn't that disgusting? Can that guy get any more disgusting than that?
Yeah. And look how much that jerk, slobby, craphead Hannity's worth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like $150 million or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, he's nothing other than an influencer. Yeah, he's an influencer.
A little slobby jerk.
Yeah. If we're going to talk about heaven, you might want to mention what Jesus said, blessed be the peacemakers, right?
No, how dare you say that? How dare you say that?
He didn't say,
Jesus
blessed
never
are
said
those
that.
who sell wars. He didn't say that. That's really what
No.
Lindsey Graham's entire life was about. And that's what they were honoring. And it was really a disgusting display. And I thought about that. Somebody mentioned the fact that they didn't do it in contrast with Lindsey Graham's funeral. But, there was just a funeral of the Ayatollah in Iran. And as one person had pointed out about that, maybe that was the largest funeral ever in history. They had millions of people in the streets. What you get with Lindsey Graham is you get this cabal of liars, murderers, and people who are stealing. They're there to eulogize him one after the other. And, it's kind of interesting. He had this documentary that he had a guy following him around, and the guy is going to release a documentary. He's going to call the documentary Lindsey's Game. And it really was a game for Lindsey. But, people were dying in this game. It was a game of death. It's like, Travis, what was that dystopian thing? Hunger Games or something, right? It's that type of thing where, Roman Colosseum games. That's the kind of games that he enjoyed. Bringing unparalleled joy and bringing destruction to foreign people. That was really the full amount of his life. And he's got this guy following around the documentary. And he got some amazing stuff. It truly is crazy to see Lindsey Graham. Now, I almost cried. He cried tears of joy as they're blowing up schools with hundreds of young girls in it and doing it in a double tap way. Truly amazing. When you look at what Scott Ritter said about that, he said, I know how this thing operates. And I know that they have a drone that it was loitering up there, and that's exactly what they did. Saw the whole thing, and then called in a second strike. So anybody that survived from the initial explosion, anybody that survived from the initial blast would be taken out in a holocaust of flame. It truly is incredible. Gerald Celente of Trends Journal. And again, you can save 10% on a subscription to Trends Journal. Very economical, especially with the 10% off. And you can find that at trendsjournal.com. You can see what it looks like. A very impressive weekly publication, in depth on real issues, no fluff that he has there. But while we're talking about fluff, let's take a look at Lindsey Graham. And I played this clip yesterday. I want to get your reaction to this. This is Lindsey Graham, nearly brought to tears of joy, talking about how good Trump is at blowing stuff up.
Virtually everything they have has been knocked out now.
Virtually everything. It's all gone.
Going way down.
This is right away.
Amazingly, they're hitting countries that
Of course, now we don't know that's true.
What we've done here.
I know.
I almost cried.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how long have we been pushing this?
30 years.
Pushing this for years, right?
Right, it's here. I talked to Trump this morning.
It's literally.
Oh, he's Jack.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I've ever done. He loves blowing stuff up. So, there are a lot of people inside didn't want to do it. So I've had my challenges. But President Trump, when he gets into the zone, he listens, he asks good questions, no tweeting. He has done he hadn't tweeted much at all, no drama.
Yeah, what about that? No drama. Boy, we've had a lot of tweeting and drama ever since he's pronounced that he's won this war maybe 30 times. He's told us how he's destroyed all their military equipment, how he's going to wipe out their civilization. If that isn't a signed confession of a war crime, I don't know what is, but it just disgusts me to see what is being done with our government and done in our name with our money.
Again, it's go to it. If anybody wants to know more about the Trends Journal, go to YouTube and look at the comments of the people that subscribe to it.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving people that you're not getting anywhere else.
That's right.
And here, this is from the economic update yesterday. We talked about the .com bust.
Mm-hmm.
And this is starting to happen, particularly in Asia. The Asian markets are going down. The Kospi, the South Korean market, it's down some 34% this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's up still it was up over 70%, but now it's down into bare territory. They're selling out of the semiconductors and high-tech stuff. It's way overvalued. So we begin by talking about that and how there's the .com bust. And then we go into the next breakout point, phony pump up. As we have detailed by his words and deeds. Remember, this is yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump will continue to do all he can to keep propping up the U.S. equity markets and bring oil prices down since he and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launched the illegal war on 28 February. Now, you mentioned that they're not from the Middle East, these people.
Mhm.
They're Eastern Europeans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And every president or prime minister of Italy has been Israel rather, has been an Eastern European. They're not Semites. Most of them are Ashkenazis
Mm-hmm.
from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, they-
Ashkenazi. You got it? Ashkenazis.
And typically
Anyway,
from Ukraine. Typically, many of these people are from Ukraine or parts of Russia.
again, as we note by his words and deeds, it's not BS. The bull is dead. What Trump spews out is Trump, SHI. It's not BS anymore. Again, we note the facts and data as to the many sides of his mouth Trump speaks from as the art of the deal presidential reality show champion. Again, by the facts. In a phone call with the New York Times the day after the war began, so it was March 1st, they reported that President Trump said that the U.S. military intends to sustain its assault on Iran, you ready? For, quote, 4 or 5 weeks. If necessary, insisting, quote, it won't be difficult for Israel and the United States to intensify the battle. Okay, 4 or 5 weeks? Welcome to 5 months, 1 day.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the hell is the outrage? Hey, Trump, you said 4 or 5 weeks, all right? All right?
Yeah.
It's 5 months now. Oh, and what's the real number it's costing us? According to some of the data, $120 billion for this war.
Yeah.
Hardly any reporting about or showing any of the pictures of how Iran is destroying military bases throughout the Gulf region in the Middle East.
That's
No.
right. They don't want to see that. And they have adjusted 3 times over the weekend the casualty figures of American soldiers at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And then divided it between 2 supposedly different wars, these 2 operations. Oh, they're completely separate. What a bunch of lies. And of course,
Yep.
you've been told from the very beginning this is not going to be a quagmire. We had people like Ben Shapiro and others at the Daily Wire like Dave Rubin. Stop talking about it being a quagmire. There's no way it's going to be a fast victory and all the rest of the stuff. What's happening now? You just had the UN ambassador, the U.S.'s ambassador to the UN, Waltz, who said on the Sunday show, he said, no, this isn't going to end until at the earliest 2027 sometime. And so we're talking about
not gonna
now
end
several
at
more
all.
months. No, it's going to just be
No.
this ongoing quagmire.
Yep.
It's
Again, and then now, again, he does it to rig the markets because let's go back to last week.
Mhm.
The United States attacked for 13 days. Brent crude broke over $100 a barrel. Then what happened after? Again, he keeps doing this over and over again. After the markets closed on Friday, hey, we got a ceasefire deal coming up. All right.
Mhm.
President Trump said Monday, he told reporters that an Iran deal was in the making because, you ready? They want to meet, and we are meeting. We'll see what happens. There's a chance we can make a deal. Without it's claiming that Iran wanted a deal because, quote, without what we did, they wouldn't even be talking to us. All right?
Mhm.
Trump told Axios News on Monday, we are in very deep talks with Iran. And what happened? Brent crude on Friday was $100. It went down to 83, close to 83.91 yesterday.
Yeah,
And
he's
now-
an expert on manipulation, isn't he?
Yep. And again, none of this reporting in the Western media.
Mm.
As he's lying about the ceasefire, again, we go to Al Jazeera, we go to Tehran Times, we go to IRNA, we go to ISNA, we go to Press TV, Tasman, we go to the Iranian sites, the Arab sites. And this is from Al Jazeera. Kazem, I can't pronounce his last name, Gharibadi, Karabadi, said, this is Iran's deputy foreign minister, said, quote, there are no plans to negotiate with the U.S.
Yeah.
As Trump is saying they're negotiating, this guy said, we're not negotiating with them.
Isn't it amazing? We got the Ayatollahs are telling us the truth. And the president just lies and gets caught in the lies.
Lie after lie.
Even as this stuff is happening, they don't have any missiles, and and then you see the news feed as they are, hitting the American military bases with it at the same time. Yeah, this is the latest thing that I just saw the last couple of days, Gerald. There was an article that came out of Haaretz, and they said there's no interest in getting the Israeli government drawn into the U.S.-Iran conflict. Imagine that. Look at how they have turned this thing upside down. We know from the very beginning, they were the ones who drew us in. You had Lindsey Graham bragging about the fact, he comes in and he strikes while the iron is hot, while Trump is all puffed up with pride about the illegal criminal war of aggression they did against Venezuela, and they're still killing people illegally and criminally by blowing up boats out there. Has had absolutely zero effect on drug interdiction, of course. But he was all pumped up with pride, so they struck while that iron was hot. And again, pushing this stuff, and now they drew us into it. Rubio said that. Now the Israeli press is saying, well, we don't want to get Israel drawn into this U.S.-Iran war. And you got the Israeli finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, says, quote, Israel has no interest in joining the limited confrontation between Iran and the U.S. The current situation is the best possible one for us. You better believe it is. They created that situation. Now they pull back like they don't know how this happened, right? Passive-aggressive stuff. Isn't it amazing how they lie?
Total BS, because here's the deal.
Yeah.
What wasn't Netanyahu in the United States? Just came here?
Yeah, for Lindsey's funeral, yeah.
Yeah. Now, to talk with Trump.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
totally involved in this war.
That's right.
There's not going to be a ceasefire because one of the demands from Iran is that Israel has to pull out of Lebanon, stop stealing land in Gaza and the West Bank. That's just some of it. And the other ones that you mentioned earlier, they want their money back that the Americans stole from them, the billions.
That's right.
They're not going to do it. And Iran is also demanding that America pay for the damage it's caused in bombing the place. There's not going to be a ceasefire. Israel is totally involved in this war. And here you mentioned about Rubio. Because here, this is March 3rd. Trump was asked about Rubio saying the U.S. attacked Iran because Israel would have attacked first, prompting Iran to strike U.S. targets in the region, Trump said. He said, no, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first.
Yeah.
They were going to attack. I felt strongly about that, and based on the way the negotiations were going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready, and we are ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact. You ready? Because virtually everything they have has been knocked out.
Yeah, every bit
That
of
was
that.
March 3rd.
Every bit of that was a lie, wasn't it?
And again, it was my opinion they were going to attack us first, so I attacked them. Your opinion? And the cover of our Trends magazine was March 10th was shove your opinion up your you-know-what. Show us the facts.
If look could
And
kill,
again-
it would have been us instead of them, right?
And you only attack the attacker.
That's right. That's the only time that it is justified in a war, because
Again,
and they should not be glorying in this war. They should not, even if they have to do it to defend innocent life, even if they have to do it to defend against aggression, it shouldn't be something that they take joy in, like Lindsey Graham does, like Pete Hegseth does. It's disgusting to see that happening.
No.
Well, retired Colonel Douglas McGregor said, we hear all these TV generals saying we got to finish the job. And of course, You had, I don't know if you know this guy. He's out of New York. His name is Sid Rosenberg, but they gave him some time on Fox News. Yeah, he's disgusting and stupid. You know, we got to finish the job. I don't care how many of you Americans die. You got to go die for Israel type of thing. And as many people pointed out, as Douglas McGregor has pointed out, he said, you know, this is not anything at all like Iraq. Iraq was like the type of place where they test missiles, you know, a flat bed of sand and all the rest of the stuff. Half of this country is mountainous, and they got a population that is 5 times the number. Douglas McGregor is saying we can't equip millions of soldiers to fight thousands of miles away from home. A mass mobilization unseen since World War II, when America was the world's leading industrial superpower. And he points out, I thought this was interesting, Gerald. He said one of the guys that's really selling this idea on TV, one of the actual, you know, you could sarcastically call Sid Rosenberg a TV general, but this is a guy who's actually a retired general, and he's pushing the idea of boots on the ground, American boots on the ground. This is a retired 4-star general, Frank McKenzie. And as Douglas McGregor says, he seems to think that he has the answer. Ground forces, he said. Remember, McKenzie's withdrawal preceded the rapid collapse of U.S. trained and equipped Afghan forces and an Islamic State suicide bombing, which killed 13 U.S. Marines. He was the guy that was in charge of this fire drill evacuation out of Afghanistan. And so now he's saying we got to put ground troops in and take Karg Island. That's the same general.
Again, you know, I mentioned this one of my books, Trend Tracking, and far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine, 1989. So how I became a trend forecaster and a political atheist when the Iran conflict broke out, and he taught us to hate Iran. Anyway, since that time, I've been saying there's no way remember this is 1989, I've been saying it since then, there's no way the United States could defeat Iran. These are the Persians. They've been around a long time, and they're very advanced scientifically, technologically, and militarily. And as McGregor pointed out, the other facts as well. They put boots on the ground, they'll be dead in seconds, minutes. They'll be obliterated in minutes.
He said if they even get to the island, then what do they do? You know, what's the purpose of this? And I don't think there is any purpose. I think they just want to keep this war going.
I just told you the purpose. I thought they were going to attack us, so I attacked them. That's Trump's words. That's why he said we got in the war. I just read it.
That's right.
A totally illegal war.
That's right. Well, when you look at this, when you look at the economic stuff that's on the horizon today, the Federal Reserve is going to announce what they're going to do with interest rates. And as everybody hangs on that, to me, Gerald, it looks exactly like how Wall Street hangs on Trump's phony pronouncements about progress and victory in this war. It is absolutely phony. You got Kevin Warsh has decided one of the first things he's going to do is change the way that he calculates inflation. And they lie to us about everything. But the bigger issue is I see all this, all of the markets being moved by interest rates. And I see one article after the other. You know, they're not, forget about oil and forget about the war. Everybody's looking to see what the Federal Reserve is going to do about interest rates, if it's going to go up a quarter or down a quarter or whatever. And that's what's affecting the price of gold. It truly is insane how these people, it's like a fad. It's like a collective madness, you know, the momentum chasers that are out there in the marketplace. And you know, the reality still remains there. You know, all the stuff about everybody fleeing the petrodollar still is there. As a matter of fact, one clip I played this week, the guy was saying, well, the Strait of Hormuz is really an existential issue for the American empire, because that is showing that we cannot provide the security that the petrodollar was based on. And of course, Saudi has moved away to China now in terms of influence. The petrodollar is going away, and the U.S. dollar is going away as the world's reserve currency, because people there was this implied agreement that they were going to have the U.S. be the global police force, and they would participate in this fraud of the fiat currency, and everybody's seeing that isn't going to happen anymore.
Again, you're talking about, you know, why gold prices are going down. You got the U.S. the U.S. 30-year U.S. Treasury yield. It's above 5%. So three reasons they're going down. Number one, you saw Russia was at war. They sold over 44 tons of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey's selling gold. Mexico's selling gold, one after another, because this Iran war and the other wars are costing big money and their currencies are going down as the dollar's going up. Number two, covering losses in the equity markets. They're selling out of gold to cover their losses. But the other one we're looking at, the higher the yields go, the higher long-term rates go, and like mortgages and loans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to bring down the market. And this is important, that this is the longest stretch that the Treasury's been at 5% since, you know when?
When?
2007.
Ah, okay.
November, right before the panic of '08.
Well, that's a harbinger, isn't it?
And by the way, we took out the domain name in November 2007, panic of '08.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at. So this is totally artificially propped up the markets. They're way overvalued. And again, by the way, this just came out from Haaretz. You mentioned that news site before, just before I went on the air. I don't want to say the word, but can you see that?
Let's see. Trump will,
Trump-
he'll beat the effing crap out of Iran after it fired at a U.S. base. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. How many times
Tough guy.
has he said this crap?
Mm-hmm.
How many times? Oh, people don't like my language. Yeah. But it's okay for Trump to say that we're going to beat the effing SHI, you know what, out of Iran.
That's right. Yeah.
Where is the outrage? Could you imagine if Hitler or Mussolini said these things?
Yeah.
We'd be reading about it in our history books.
Well, you know, the
We'd
difference.
be reading about if Hitler said, we're going to beat the FNS out of France. We'd be reading that in our history books.
The difference is that Hitler and Mussolini didn't grow up in WWE wrestling.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's what this is really about. Yeah.
It is March 26th. Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Strait of Hormuz? Time's running out. 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. April 4th.
Yeah, he's a tough guy, isn't he?
One after another, one lie after another. Trump says war in Iran moving substantially ahead of schedule. That was on day after the war, 2 days after, March 2nd. Yep.
Well, you know, when you were talking about interest rates,
after another.
we're talking about interest rates and talking about the stock market bubble that he's helped to push along with all this stuff. It's not just the stock prices that are in a bubble. There's also a massive AI debt bubble. You look at the massive amount of capital expenditures these people put in, and look at what NVIDIA is doing. I mean, there's one deal after the other. Well, this one we got $250 billion over here. We got $350 billion over here. They're throwing money around like crazy. And part of this is a fraud in terms of this circular investing. They give these companies money, and the companies turn around and use that money to buy the NVIDIA GPUs from them. And, then they mark that up as sale for this stuff. And so that everybody knows that that's a fraud, but they just keep going with it as if it's something that they pretend that it's real. It's the craziest marketplace we've ever seen, I think. This is what this reminds me of, Gerald, is that movie, The Big Short. I never read the book, but you got a couple of guys that caught on to what was happening, and they saw the fraud that was there, and they start blowing the whistle to these various rating agencies and insurance agencies and so forth, and they all know, and they just keep this going. And the guys are like, how in the world can we be this dishonest with the stuff and just keep it going and nobody cares? That's where we are.
Yeah. We're on the same page. This is in your economic update in the Trends Journal. It went out last night. Again, it should be noted that high-tech equity spike markets were financed by a record amount of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Reuters reported that, quote, margin debt, the amount investors borrow to invest, hit a record $1.5 trillion in June, according to the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, leaving investors' net balance with their brokers in a $1 trillion deficit for the first time. And that, quote, investors who owe more than they have in cash are far more likely to sell into declines in stocks than buy them.
Wow.
So it's deep in debt, just as you said. We're talking $1.5 trillion in gambling.
Yeah. 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 And of course, we now have as president a guy who bankrupted 6 casinos. He's probably going to bankrupt the biggest casino ever, Wall Street, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. But don't worry about it, because in your presidential reality show section, we have fascism. Trump's super PAC pulls in more than $400 million in non-presidential elections. Trump sees wealth boom in second term. One after another. Yep.
Yeah, you know, the guy, his last name is Sun or whatever. He was a Chinese, Asian guy, and he made a lot of money off of crypto. He was the guy who spent $5 million for that quote-unquote piece of art, which was a banana taped to a wall with a piece of duct tape. Remember that? So ostentatious and, not serious about any of the money that is out there. The SEC came after him, and he made some major structural investments at the beginning of Trump's World Liberty financial thing that he's got going on, that grift that's made so much money for his family. And so this guy made some big investments as that was taking off, helped them to get off the ground. And then lo and behold, he's one of the first things that Trump does is he pardons this guy and gets the SEC off his back. He has now turned and he is talking about Trump and his fraud, his crypto fraud, which is kind of interesting because I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be turning as soon as they sense that he has had, things are blowing back on him. You're going to have a lot of people turning on him. I mean, I've never seen a bigger cheerleader for Trump than Alex Jones, and he is now out there calling for his impeachment, which, he never, privately, he didn't agree with Trump, but publicly, he couldn't be a bigger cheerleader for Trump. And I think it's going to go this way with a lot of people. A lot of people who have been shills and influencers for him are then going to turn on him. And I think that's probably going to happen around the midterms. I hope it does.
Again, that's why I think Alex Jones took me off, because I was opposed to Trump.
That's right. That's right.
And
took me off because I opposed the January the 6th fraud. Yeah.
Watch out for the markets. The equity markets, they're in serious danger. Again, this is global. And I'm very concerned that this war is going to go nuclear. Israel
look what he's doing with Saudi Arabia, right? He's proliferating it with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And Trump is going to say that they were going to attack us or something. We had to go nuclear against Iran. And Israel has what they call the Samson option, SAMSON. They say if they're losing, they're going nuclear. Again, Netanyahu coming to the United States, it wasn't about Lindsey Graham. It was Trump to come up with the next deal on the war.
Yeah.
This war is not going to end. It's continuing. You're seeing the markets going down again today. Again, as I say, when all else fails, they take us to war. The markets are failing. The economy's failing. Trump's popularity rating. Here, the YouGov poll, CBS, only 35% of Americans approve of Trump's handling the economy. 65% disapprove. 71 disapprove of his handling inflation. On and on and on.
And they really don't care. They don't care whether we approve of Trump. They're going to rig the elections, just like they don't care if we approve of the flock cameras. They're going to continue equipping the police surveillance state. It doesn't matter what issue you look at. These people are going against the vast majority of the population. You might have only 20% of the people who are with them, 80% of the people who oppose them, and yet what do? They go against the 80%. It is the most high-handed kind of tyranny I've ever seen in my life. These guys don't even pretend to do what the people want.
Surveillance state, more than 117,000 automated license plate readers are across the U.S. That's one of the articles in the Trends Journal talking about the surveillance state, and it's just begun.
That's right.
It has just begun.
That's right. Yeah, it is horrific when we look at this. People are I played a clip earlier in the program, Gerald, of what it sounded like to be close to one of these things, this high-pitched, loud scream 24/7, drive people insane, and yet the reality is that the surveillance state these people are putting in place is far worse than anything that you're going to experience. As bad as those things are, it's going to be even worse than that. Thank you so much for joining us again, folks.
Yep.
You can go to trendsjournal.com, save 10% off with the code NIGHT. And I want to also thank G-Talent60. Thank you for the tip. It says, "Go, Gerald, go." And thank you, Do Not Obey. I appreciate the tip on Rumble. Thank you so much. An IRS machine gun. Thank you so much. Said he waited all week for this interview. Thank you for joining us, folks. Have a good day. The Common Man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.